Hey, by the way, notice how I wrote favorite in the title? That OU flex? Canada, baby. Actually, not even just Canada. Just everywhere outside of the United States, basically, I believe. But anyway, this is certainly not a video on international grammar. No, this is another ramble type video like I did before. We'll see where we end up going with it, but we'll start with this premise. Or this idea, I guess I should say. Today I'm going to tell you why finally supporters of the Canadian national team, for the first time in my life, can actually look forward to matches against the USA now, and perhaps even sterner opposition. Maybe I'll also talk some Canadian Premier League too. We'll see. First off though, don't worry, we get it. One result in our favor, that's favor spelled O-U-R by the way. One result in our favor against the US doesn't help us to develop younger talent or accelerate their progress at all, nor does it mean we're suddenly the favorites to qualify for the next World Cup. This is a long-term thing. We are looking towards the future here. Don't worry, we understand that not one result changes everything. But in the short term, I think that one result in our favor against a listless USA in a match where 2-0 could have been 3 or 4. Here's looking at you, Jonathan David, for spurning that chance. But it's all good, still love you. Oh, and the linesman that called Davies offside when he was a good few feet on and in the clear one-on-one? Come on, bro. But anyways, I think a match where Canada hustled them off the park, pressed them to oblivion, and broke up their lines extremely well, forced errors. Davies and his 18-year-old pace definitely had them shook in defense. Canada played very competently. Even if a lot of media down south would tell you that it was more the USA that were bad than Canada were actually good. In fact, Stephen Sandor from CanPL.ca wrote a great article about how that may just be because it is getting harder for the USA to accept that their grip on CONCACAF is getting shakier and shakier. Mexico and Costa Rica are obviously the top 2 teams in CONCACAF in my book. That means the USA is 3rd and Canada is trying to close the gap from 3 to 4. And they're trying to do it with some great young talent. Let me tell you. You've got Lucas Cavallini, who plays for Puebla and Liga MX. He came on and was a headache for the US backline. He scored 5 goals at the Gold Cup, one behind the next guy I'll talk about. He's not super young at 26, but I digress. Jonathan David, my guy. Career mode people know how much I love him. He's killing it at Belgian side Gent, scoring 6 goals in 9 appearances so far in the league, and is apparently highly sought after by some bigger clubs in Europe. We'll see what happens there with his career, but did you see what happened when he played in the Gold Cup this past summer? He won the Golden Boot with 6 goals, man, and became the youngest player to ever score a hat trick in Gold Cup history. Plus, he set the record for the most amount of goals scored by a Canadian player in the calendar year with 8. 20 years old to boot. Of course, there's Alphonso Davies as well. You already know about this guy. He made the 20-man shortlist for the Golden Boy Award. He has been at Bayern Munich since January of 2019, is improving all the time there, filling in at left back or on the wing. However, I think this match was a testament to how he must be used as an attacker. That's where he belongs on the pitch, so I'm glad to see that Herdman went forward with that. As I said earlier, man, his pace is frightening, as Tim Ream learned in this past match. He's best when he's running at defenders with the ball, not when they're running at him with the ball. But that's not to say he's a terrible defender either. Davies, he hasn't even turned 19 yet. We got a 20-year-old, a 26-year-old, an 18-year-old. Borjan, Red Star Belgrade's goalkeeping hero, is our hero in goal. The Eustekio boys who play at Cruz Azul and Calgary. Junior Hoylett, what a guy! You love Junior Hoylett, Blackburn Rovers, QPR, and Cardiff City legend. Then of course, there's Mark Anthony Kaye, who many Americans think is our second best or even our best player, but that's very much up for debate. I think that's more down to them just being familiar with him, given he's been an important player for LAFC this season. I won't name every player on the team, obviously, but of course there's Arfield, who plays for Rangers. He's in there as well. Our main worry is definitely in defense. That's the one area where we could use some improvement, as we have a bit of an unbalanced squad. But there's a reason to believe that will improve. These are things you need to know. You need to know where our weaknesses are as an aspiring fan of Canada. So I don't know if you noticed, but in 2019, Canada launched their own pro league called the Canadian Premier League. Growing pains aside, due to having to cross an entire continent to play with your next opponent, and of course the fact that it's the first year with some brand new teams filled with young players, it's been a success on the sporting side of things, and a massive success in giving young Canadian talent a decent league to play in finally. Just want to say I support Pacific FC. this team. And last I checked, we led the league as far as minutes given to young Canadian talent. We are saviors. I know. But basically, before this, young Canadian talent had to go play for the second teams of the MLS, aka their academies or farm teams, and breaking into the first team for some football with tougher opposition could be, for lack of a better word, tough. So now, with our own Premier League, these young players get to play regularly. Look at Terran Campbell, a guy who was, with Vancouver Whitecaps FC's second team, and Tristan Borges in the Canadian Premier League. In the recent regular season, they lit up the goal scoring charts with 11 and 12 goals respectively. And if it wasn't for the talent that Canada has in the attack currently that are playing abroad, you wouldn't be surprised to see them getting a call-up eventually. Now, I guess the natural question that you're going to be wondering as an aspiring Canadian football fan is, how does the Canadian Premier League stack up to the MLS? And asking yourself further, which team should you support? Well, first off, support Pacific FC. Second, we only have a small sample size. In the Canadian Championship, the Nationwide Cup, the worst team in the MLS, the Whitecaps, came up against the Canadian Premier League team, the Cavalry. I always mess that up. I always want to say Calgary, because the Calgary and Cavalry are so similar. So, the Whitecaps, one of the worst teams in the MLS. The Cavalry, the best team in the Canadian Premier League, alongside the Hamilton Forge. Those two play in the finals soon, actually, Hamilton and Calgary. And the Cavalry eliminated the Whitecaps from the Canadian Championship. Then, they went up against my MLS team, the Montreal Impact. Oh yeah, what's this? Inaugural season scarf? That's right, you're probably wondering at this point, Adrian, I thought you were a Benfica boy. I am a Benfica boy, Benfica first. But when I was going to university in Montreal, the Impact played their inaugural season, started going to games. All of a sudden I'm an Impact fan, all of a sudden I'm buying season tickets. And then, Pacific FC, they're from my hometown where I was living not so long ago, this past summer. My hometown gets a professional football team. Of course I'm going to be a supporter. So I got season tickets to their inaugural season. Hey, so those are my 3 tiers of teams. So, the Cavalry go up against the Impact and they lost 3-1 in aggregate, which is not bad for a team that existed in a regional league prior to 2019. So, Montreal and Vancouver, not great representatives of the MLS, but it gives you some idea of around where the top Canadian Premier League teams are. So, all this to say, Canada is finally starting to tap into the potential it has always had to become a footballing country. There's finally some sort of infrastructure for our young players, which undoubtedly lead to more opportunity and more competitive players. I mean, Marco Carducci from the Calgary Cavalry has been called up to the Canadian national team already, as was Mauro Eustachio. With a few more years of development for the league, with a few more years of Canadian talent playing abroad in Europe and getting playing time regularly in the MLS, again, I'm not saying that we'll be the top team in CONCACAF by the end of this year or the next, but we're definitely starting to close that large gap that was there between us and the top 3 CONCACAF teams. And that's why you should support Canada, the preferred choice of CONCACAF hipsters and the champions of the 2026 World Cup in North America. Thank you. Okay, I think that's all I've had to say. I feel like I haven't given enough love to Canada on this channel, so why not take this opportunity after our first victory over the USA since 1985. 34 years. By the way, if you're interested, your first chance to support Canada will be when they face off against the USA on November 15th, and that match, again, won't draw any sort of conclusions regarding our growth, but will be a nice way of checking in on that growth. So, thanks for watching. Love you. Go Canada, go.